Hello out there. This is Sam Kilmer, Managing Director of Cornerstone Advisors, contributor to Gonzo Banker, and host of FinTech Hustle podcast. I have the honor of talking shop today with lots of smart people here, and one of the industry folks that I know, Soren Vested, COO of Agent IQ. Thanks for joining me today, Soren.
Thanks so much for having me, Sam. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here with you. And I was just thinking, I don't know that I've ever talked to you about this before, but I'd just love to know. I know you had a variety of roles at Agent IQ. Right. Tell me about what's the day in the life of Soren look like?
The day in life of Soren is a good question. I wonder about that sometimes myself. But a lot of my time is spent with clients. As you know, we at Agent IQ, we always talk about the importance for community banks to get close to your customers. Mm-hmm. If you don't talk to the customers, you don't understand what they need. You can't be relevant. Mm-hmm. And we very early on decided we need to live and die by that. So I do spend probably close to half my time talking to our existing clients, not prospective clients, but people that are already using our platform. Mm-hmm. We generally meet with each of them weekly. And the idea of that is we want to understand how they're using the platform, and that's great. But more importantly, how would they like to use the platform? What would they like to do? Not the big, I'm going to send Soren an email. But the small question is, now that we're here, I actually want to ask you something, Soren. Can we? And we feel that has been incredibly important for us. Over the last year, we did 23 releases. We released 120 new features. 80 of those features came out of meetings like our weekly meetings of, wouldn't it be nice if we could? Gotcha. So for me, that's, for us, it's been very important to figure out, I'm going to try to build valuation quickly, get a lot of customers. I'm going to try to build value for the customers you have. And that's really the path we have taken.
Excellent. Well, when you think about it, you guys work with a lot of community financial institutions, banks and credit unions that are competing against the very largest banks and fintechs, mega banks, whatever you want to call them. When you think about their ability to differentiate, stand out, pop in the market, be competitive, what capabilities or examples that you can think of that come to mind of how they can do that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sam, because you are right. We're down to 10,200 banks and credit unions, and we have the big four, maybe big five if you want to be kind. Mm-hmm. And why? How do you compete with that? Mm-hmm. We do think about the last decade or so of Felt has been dominated by trying to compete on tech. Mm-hmm. And if you have a Chase Bank that's spending 13, 14 billion a year on technology, they're going to be pretty good at that. And as a community bank, trying to compete with that is difficult. But if you take a step back and think about, as a community bank, why did the customer come to me? Why are they staying with me? It's not necessarily because I have the absolutely cutting edge of technology. It's because I want to work with Sam. I like working with Sam. He's my guy. And I think that's how we feel community banks can really take a step forward. Going back to banking 30 years ago was all in person. I'll walk into the branch. Mm-hmm. I'll talk to Sam. We'll talk about the family. You'll hear what my family is going. You'll realize that my twins are going to be driving in a month. Then I probably need 1 or 2 new cars. And as a good banker, you can be relevant. Say, hey, Soren, if you're buying 1 or 2 more cars, I can help you with that. And we think that has been lost in the digital world. And we think helping banks, credit unions, put that to the forefront. Not that I'm working with the bank, but I'm working with you, Sam, anytime, anywhere, just like I would do in any other industry outside banking.
So it sounds like what you're saying is like, yes, it's personalized service, but it's also just mapping someone to a relationship manager or somebody, so it's basically pairing them with someone and then they follow them throughout their journey.
That's exactly right, Simon. I think it's that taking that step from personalization became, the form letter that says, Dear Sam, you have been pre-selected. Yeah. I think that's personalization. I think we need to move a step beyond it. We want it to be personal. Mm-hmm. I don't want it just to give my name, but I want you to know me. I want you to understand, why do I have the accent I have? How old are my kids? What is my station in life? What I'm trying to achieve? And I think that's what customers are hungering for. And
I think, by the way, that why do you have the accent that you have? It's a cool accent, so you should run with that. Stay with that. Yeah.
I don't hear that very often, but I appreciate it.
You bet. So that's. Are there any product, like when you think about people differentiating? We talked a little bit about delivery and personalized service. Yep. What about products? Are there any products that you think that banks and credit unions should be thinking about, or that you see them thinking about that make them a little bit unique or to pop out in the market at all?
Great question. I think a lot of the product and services we see are not a proper statement to make in this event here, but they are commoditized. Yeah. Right. And I do think it has to do with how do you put it together. Yeah. So it's not necessarily that I need a new P2P solution, but it may be that my kids may choose to go overseas. So how do we manage that? And again, I think it's about how do we put the service and product offering together for me? So about understanding what I need and taking the time, taking the effort to understand what is it that actually works for Soren. Not what is the 80% that work for the 80%, but what is it Sam understands Soren needs.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a little bit about delivery, and we've talked a little bit about personalization. We've talked a little bit about products. Maybe another place to just go real quickly here would just be when you think about, and not so much when customers or members are coming into the financial institution, but when the financial institution's leaders are trying to reach out and establish new customers and grow the bank. Are there any outreach capabilities or things that you think that banks and credit unions should be doing, or that you see some of them doing that you think are have a lot of merit or are part of the solution?
Yeah, so I do think banks and credit unions are doing generally a good job of onboarding new customers. There's some great online account opening, there's Grow, there's Mansell, a lot of different ways of becoming a customer. I think the critical step is once I become a customer, how do you take me from a guy with $1,200 in my checking account and my loss-making customer for the bank or for the credit union? How do we bring me in? How do we earn the right to take all Soren's business? To understand how do we move a money market over, how do we move an auto loan, home financing, how do we become the primary financial organization? And I think we have seen a number of banks that have taken the approach that the moment you come in, you've seen this before, but I love the idea of selecting your own banker. I get to pick who I want to work with, and having that person reach out to me on a regular basis. Soren, how are things doing? You got your debit card? Anything else I can help you with? The real answer is the first 4 or 5 times the answer is going to be, no, I'm fine, I don't need anything. But at some point, if you make it frictionless enough to talk to a banker, when you reach out to me, Sam, I'm going to go, Sam, I don't need anything. But actually, now that you're here, I want to ask you about something. And I think that's the opportunity. And if you look at people like Park National Bank, Rockland Trust, Stanford Federal Credit Union, they really wrote the book on how do we, in an inoffensive way, understand what customers want. As they say, you can, with enough data, you can try to predict what Sam wants or what Soren wants. If you have a relationship with someone, you can just ask him.
Or give them something at least smart to react to. It may not be exactly what they want, but you're starting the conversation with at least a good start that says, we know you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I love what you said there, because one of the things we have seen a good amount of benefit out of is the idea of using, when BMO went through their conversion recently with Bank of the West, we saw about 3,000 customers an hour talk to bankers on a sustained basis. It's a lot of conversation. And asking bankers to analyze what did the customer talk about is suboptimal. But what if you were to use natural language processing like we do to play back to the bank, what did customers talk about? Not 6 months ago or 3 months ago, but in the last 48 hours. We had an example with a small credit union out of Arizona, Pinal County. They noticed in the beginning of COVID, suddenly the number of conversations about auto loans went up 6-fold in 1 week. So what did they do? They wrote a little inoffensive script, not coming from the organization, but coming from their associates, saying, hey, Sam, a lot of folks are asking us about auto loans right now. As a member here, you qualify for our favorite rate, our benefit rates. And a number of customers picked up on that, a number of members picked up and went ahead. Yeah. And I think one associate closed 160,000 in loans in 48 hours. And that was great. But you're exactly right. What was really exciting was all the people that went, no, Sam, I'm not looking for a car. What I'm looking for is, as you said, give people something to respond to. Yeah.
Well, and we're not sort of all work and no play here. So I guess let me wrap up with, if you had front row tickets for your dream concert of choice, what would you choose?
Great question. Now, maybe betraying my age, but U2 at Red Rock.
Oh,
just an incredible concert, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen U2 a few times, and they always crushed it. So, and maybe that dates me too, but I don't care. I can live with that. So, well, it's great. It's great talking with you today, and I appreciate it, Soren.
Thank you.